right. So Ken and Lisa Waters Lain, we come each week with this segment just to go over the Q&A, the questions. What are other gardeners talking about? And there's something to be learned. I was teaching a garden class last week. It was on how to prepare dirt,
Mm.
like the simplest of garden topics, but the most complicated because
Mhm.
it's the soil is everything.
Right.
If you get that right, you can stumble your way into success. Ask any Midwest gardener. You don't have to be a gardener. You have to be able to chuck your hat out in the garden and watch it grow because the soil is so ripe for
Mhm.
so vigorous, so easy. We saw that in Northern California. You just
Mhm.
try and it goes. Here you can have that same experience, but you got to get the soil right. And so that when the class was done, I was mobbed by like 15 people wanting to know more of the question. They were really into it.
That's
And
good.
some folks just hovered around the edges just to listen
Mhm.
to the conversation. They didn't have a question, they just wanted to learn from
Sure.
other folks. That's a great way to learn, and that's what we want
Mhm.
for this segment. So
Right.
welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you. Frequently I hear people say, "I thought I was a gardener until I
Yeah,
moved here."
yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, you're still a gardener. You just have to learn a little bit
Little
different
different
tricks."
techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Tips and tricks that kind of work
Mhm.
here. And it's the sun, it's the alkalinity. There's certain things, the altitude, the wind,
Wind.
the
Yeah.
seasonality of it all,
Mhm.
and the extremes. Right now, we're
Right.
getting to the extremes.
Yeah.
Things are starting to grow, but it's only the things that like extreme growth. Like I was looking in the back of the nursery. There's a honeysuckle blooming. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. But it's just
I love
happy in
it.
the sun, just
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. All right. So we do have some questions kind of relate to that. So Richard in Prescott was pruning his maple tree
Yeah,
and noticed that it was really sapping,
yeah,
like
okay,
almost like
yeah,
water pouring out of the tree
yeah.
sapping. Wants to know, should he be concerned about that? Should he use prune seal or just let it do its thing?
So there's a couple things. Now the book would say when you make a cut, seal it with that black pruning paint. There's a tar. There's a special kind of paint you put on there. We've got it in spray form. Where there's one with a can that's got a brush on it. Um, I I kind of take the middle ground. So some folks say you have to do it with every cut. Others say, oh no, it seals in the disease. I don't know. There's all this debate going on. Really, what I personally have found works.
Hmm.
I did a whole bunch of pruning this week. I did not seal one of them, including maples. I noticed that with the boxwoods too. They were the grapes. They were
Oh,
they were bleeding out like that.
uh-huh.
I didn't seal them because there's no bugs right now.
Right.
There's no disease. There's no pestilence roaming around. Not very much. And so I'm more worried about a fungal thing getting in there, starting to eat that live tissue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by the time those things are active, it will have scarred over or dried out. So at first, it's quite alarming when this tree starts to you see the sap running down out of this wound.
Right.
Uh, um, I think it's okay that evening. It will cool right down. The
Hmm.
sap will slow, and I think it will seal itself or scab over by itself. I don't think there's any need. If it's really running and you're worried, come in. We've got some pruning paint. Put it on there. It'll stop that. That's also why we say to prune in the winter
Hmm.
when it's cold. The sap is less likely to be running at that point.
Hmm.
Or if it is during the day, it cooled down that evening and
Yeah.
then
It's like
it slowed it right
cauterizing
down. Yeah, yeah. So in the summer, definitely you
it.
want to seal it.
Right.
When you're pruning your roses, anything bigger than a pencil, you want to seal that because there's a little beetle that comes in that lays her eggs, and it's a cane borer.
Mm.
There's some things that happened, but for just basic fruit trees, shade trees, you're probably fine. I wouldn't worry about it, Richard. If you do really want to worry about it, play it
Just get
safe.
some
Come in and
seal.
get some paint. Yeah,
There
that's
you go.
easy.
All right. Jennifer in Prescott Valley planted a peony in a pot last spring.
Yeah,
She has not trimmed it back yet, but she wants to know, is now the time, and is now the time to fertilize?
Jennifer, I'm proud of you. You went and planted a peony in a pot. That's garden-esque. That's like that's out there. Usually everyone puts them in the ground or raised beds, but they're very pretty
Hmm.
in a container. They got this ferny foliage. They bloom in the spring. Then they got all this foliage. Is really pretty. I think that's a great way to go. Now in the winter, they die back to the ground. So you can just whack that thing right off, just right as close to the pot as you can.
Mhm.
And then probably give it a good watering when you're all done. You might even add a little fertilizer on top, but before you water it. So take some of that all-purpose plant food and sprinkle some of that and water it in, and you'll probably see the new peony eyes coming up within 3 weeks. I mean,
Yes,
we're
worm incidents,
almost there. So go ahead, don't worry about it. It's hard to kill a peony. They've got roots that go down to minus some crazy cold that we never see. So it'll be just fine. Yeah,
Right.
enjoy.
You do bring up a good point of watering it. So I'm finding people have not watered.
Yeah.
And we really have not had a significant amount of moisture since Christmas.
Yeah,
before
it's been
Christmas.
a long time.
So it really would be a good time to get your hoses out or run your system. Those things need some water.
When we had right before we had that crazy cold, like 10 days ago, I was out there. I was shivering, had lots of layers on, took the hose. I didn't want to turn the irrigation on. I just took the hose and watered all the containers mainly, or the brand new plants. I just put them in, like November. I watered those because a hydrated plant will go through that like it was nothing.
Right.
A dry plant, dry and cold, that's never good for plants. So it's kind of an insider tip for you.
Okay. Next question is from John. He has 2 acres in Chino Valley.
Oh.
They're not ready to build yet, but they want to keep weeds and all that from taking over on the property. And they were thinking about putting out wildflower and some of the meadow grasses.
Sure.
And just curious, do you need to get rid of all the weeds before you do that? And is now a good time to do that?
Now is the ideal time to put wildflowers out. I mean, by the end of February, when your timing's peak window right now. So go ahead, whether it's wild grasses or wildflowers, for them, a meadow mix. Actually, for them, Chino Valley, 2 acres. We've got a wild, like Western native grass, like what you see growing on the side of the road, the good stuff, not the tumbleweeds and the trashy, the good things. That would be great. It's a taller grass, gets up maybe knee high or so. It would for sure shadow or block out all the other weeds. I'm not sure about some bull thistle, some of these really nasty weeds, horehound.
Right.
Maybe that's hard, but even those like to see the sun. So these are tall enough and they're aggressive enough, they'll block things out. So I would say absolutely time to do it. Go for it. If you can get the weeds out of there, as many as you can, because once you start putting food and water and start nurturing this garden space,
you'll be amazed.
Wildflowers grow, everything starts growing. So if you can, Richard, kind of take some of that. Or was that John? Chino Valley. I remember that. Sean.
You blended it all together.
Yep, there we go. Got a lot of things going through my head. So anyway, I would say get rid of the weeds and go for it. I think you're fine.
So you could probably even, if you wanted to mix some wildflowers in with that revegetated mix, you could, right?
I mean, poppies, they get pretty tall. Echinaceas, gaillardias, these are tall wildflowers. I mean, some of the smaller ones, like little daisies and stuff, they might get shadowed out, but they'll seed and they'll reach towards the base of those grasses and they'll start sprouting up at the feet of those grasses. So often you see in a meadow, you'll see taller grasses, shorter grasses, lots of different kinds of flowers. And I would think it'd be beautiful to take the Arizona mix. We make a special Arizona wildflower mix and put that in with your grass and just kind of put them in the same baggie, shake and bake them, just kind of shake them around, mix them all up, and then spread that throughout the yard. Make sure that you're putting some mulch on top of that seed or the birds will find the seed highly attractive. Right. You don't want to put the world's, especially the grassy kind of seeds, they're bigger seeds. You don't want the birds eating your seeds. So
especially the crows.
Yeah.
The crows are out in full force right now. They've been harassing our dogs. What are you crows doing?
Come see us for more. We are out of time and we'll help walk you right through there. Sean from Chino Valley. Appreciate it. Hey, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.